going back and forth in my head on whether to do a video about this. And screw it, I am. Part of the reason that I think that the blind community gets so divided over totally blind and some vision and partially sighted and all that is because of the English freaking language. Because the way that we speak is so black and white in English. There's no really way to describe everybody. And it's very strange how this mutt of a language that we speak is partially responsible for so many miscommunications. It's really amusing to me that language, something that's supposed to be for expression and communication, can cause so much strife, because I know I'm not the only person in the blind community that gets frustrated as a totally blind person that we are really, really underrepresented, because in reality, at the most, it's about 15% of the blind community in the world that has zero light perception. But the range of amount of light perception that remains for the other 85% is so vast, and the eye conditions are so varied, that what language can you use to encompass all of that? How do you describe in a short, glib sentence that you can barely make out what's, a few feet in front of you, even though you still can see lights? Like, it's so frustrating, because blindness is so isolating in itself, because it's one of the most feared disabilities. If you look at any study, it's one of the most feared disabilities on the planet from able-bodied people. And then when you get into the blind community, there are so many ways to be blind or visually impaired. There are so many ways to be totally blind, even. It's, how do you describe it? How do you come up with a way of saying it other than I'm blind? And I know this video is very different from my usual decisive, ranty videos, but I wanted to kind of start a discussion and kind of open the door about talking about how the blind community, part of the reason why I think there is so much infighting is because of how crappy our communication is. Whether it be based on how grammatically structured our language is, or whether it be based on just the breakdown of communication in general in society. I think our lack of communication is probably the biggest barrier to our ability to work together. I think, and I'm guilty of this too, I think that we get too hung up on, you don't understand my lived experience, therefore you can't have any lived experience at all. And I think that that's a problem. I think we're getting too tribal. And yes, it is still a thing that if you have some vision, you're still going to get a job before a total. That's just fact. But totally blind people can't just hate visually impaired people for that. It's not the visually impaired person's fault that employers have easier ability to compare themselves to the visually impaired person because they still have some vision. We have to stop with the tribalism. We have to stop with this whole lack of communication. It starts in the small groups. It starts in the small communities like the blind community, like other disabled communities. It starts there. And then it can branch out into society as a whole. We have lost our ability to understand each other. We don't talk to each other anymore. We talk at each other. We talk past each other. And I think that's a big part of why everyone says, oh, the blind community, it's so toxic. It's so full of infighting. And I think that might be why. It's our lack of communication, and it's a societal problem. It's not just a blind community problem. I'm sorry if this is a bit of a rambly video, but I wanted to kind of open a discussion and a dialogue. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one.